Hello, believers, non believers, and everyone in between. You're listening to Stories with Sapphire. I am Sapphire Sandalo. Now get cozy and open your mind because it's story time. House of Scaredy Cats, submitted by M. I'd first like to explain that my parents have been divorced since I was a baby, so I lived in two very different houses throughout my childhood. But one similarity they had was they both had a no scary or spooky talk rule in the house. For my mom and her partner, my stepmom, it's because they are absolute scaredy cats and have always been. My mom hates absolutely anything remotely scary, will never watch a scary movie, not even the trailer. My stepmom watched one scary movie when she was younger and now has to sit with her body facing any window or door. My dad, on the other hand, was extremely religious and forbade us to talk about anything scary or magical. We couldn't even watch Wizards of Waverly Place or Fairly Odd Parents. He and our church would tell us stories about anything otherworldly being demonic and evil, and having anything to do with that is just inviting those energies into your lives. My dad used to say that kids shouldn't have a TV in their room because when it was turned off, demons came into the house and would only stay away if a man, a dad preferably, was in the house. I still sleep with my TV on to this day. I say all this because, as I grew up, I felt myself drawn to a more spiritual practice like ancestor veneration, but that nagging feeling of putting myself in danger has never left me, and I feel like I am pushing away any spirit guides or ancestors that I'm connected to. I've only had a few paranormal experiences, and only at my mom's house. My mom and stepmom moved us to the California Central Valley in 2008. It was everyone's first house with a yard in the front and back and had 2 stories. We were very excited. We got a dog the second day we were there. Lucky, may he rest in peace. And we threw a huge housewarming party. At that party, my aunt gave us this fruit bowl painted with sunflowers, since that was my mom's favorite flower. This aunt, at the time, was known to be working with spiritualists and witches because her husband was cheating on her and she was trying to get back at him and get him back. It was a mess. Well, a few months after the party, we were all moved in and settled and were watching a movie in the living room when all of a sudden, my dog started barking and growling at that bowl. My mom had placed it on top of the cupboard. Lucky was still a puppy at the time, so we thought he was barking because of something outside, but he was only looking at the bowl, not looking at us when we told him to stop, and looked very alarmed, ears up, tail tucked. While my parents are scaredy cats, they are not skeptics, and immediately got rid of the bowl. We never talked about it again. So this happened before the bowl situation, but I didn't learn about it until many years later. My parents had gone to the house the day before we were supposed to move in to just double check a few things. Before they left, my stepmom saw a full body apparition of a woman in a Victorian style dress at the end of the staircase, looking up. My stepmom said, "This is no longer your house. You need to leave." The apparition gave her one last look and walked away, disappearing into a wall. I was never told this story. My stepmom had told my sister, who then told me years later. They both didn't want me or my mom, the biggest scaredy cats of the family, to be freaked out in the house we lived in. Many years after this, I was in my junior year of high school. I had just gotten home from school and was exhausted and went to my bed to take a nap. As I began to drift off, I felt someone pat my head. I was home alone. At the same time, the TV channel changed to a kids-only channel. Normally, I would have freaked the F out, but I just couldn't keep my eyes open and honestly felt very comforted by that. I 100% know that I did not dream that, as I was still fairly aware of my surroundings and had never felt anything like that before or after. I've never told this to anyone in my family. Yet. The next year, my sister, cousin, and their friend were staying the weekend with us. Their friend Mary is very sensitive to spirits and is constantly sensing and seeing things. She was sleeping in the room next to mine and could not fall asleep for the life of her. Around 1 a.m., she saw the body of a little boy appear, and he seemed to be smiling and looked mischievous. Mary knew better than to interact with him and just kind of ignored him, or at least tried to. But then she saw another apparition of a woman, again in a Victorian dress, come running in from the window and began to chase the little boy. He laughed and ran away from her, both disappearing into the mirror in the room. When Mary told this to my sister in the morning, she said it seemed like the little boy was causing mischief and the woman was trying to wrangle him back to wherever. She said it was like when a child escapes their parents in a supermarket and thinks they're playing tag or something. My sister told her to not say anything about this, but she finally told us a few months later. Mary is no longer allowed to sleep over at our house. It's not like my mom has never witnessed or experienced anything either. A few years ago, when I still lived at that house and first started dating my boyfriend, we would talk on the phone for many hours, late into the night. One night, I had to end the conversation around midnight because I had work the next day. At breakfast, my mom started to chastise me for staying up so late on the phone. When I told her I was only up until midnight, she said, "No, I heard you laughing so loud at around 3 a.m. I replied, "No, I'm sure we hung up the phone 12:30 at the latest. Are you sure it just didn't feel like 3?" With a really weird look on her face, she said, "No, when I heard you, and it was definitely your laugh, I checked my phone to see the time, and it was 3 a.m. We just kind of looked at each other, probably thinking the same thing, and never, to this day, have talked about it. There was no one else home, and I have never had an issue with sleepwalking or sleep talking. I moved out a year after that, just to be an adult, but have never experienced anything since then, not even when I visit. Even the occasional footsteps that I used to hear at night that did not sound like my parents or just general floor creaking. I wonder if my paranoia and fear that I can't shake from a religious childhood pushed any spirits away. There's probably more stuff that has happened in that house, but again, my family is such scaredy cats that they probably won't say anything until they're all moved out of that house.
Your mom sounds a lot like my mom. To this day, she insists she's never seen The Exorcist, even though I vividly remember her renting it from Blockbuster so we could watch it. I think that she thinks that if she admits to watching it, then she could be possessed, which is not how anything works. But hey, fear makes us do weird things. Also funny to me that your dad didn't let you watch Wizards of Waverly Place or Fairly Odd Parents, because if I remember correctly, they are both shows about how magic won't solve your problems, which you'd think would be a message he'd be into. So the part of your story I found really interesting was your dog barking at the bowl that your aunt gave. I'm not sure exactly what type of magic she was doing, but it does sound like it was kind of messy and chaotic, and maybe some of that icky energy transferred to that bowl unintentionally. But your dog didn't start reacting to it until a couple months later. So maybe whatever energy was attached to it was like getting worse as time went on. Like if you left food out to rot, it was rotting up there on the cupboard. And I truly believe that there is a major energy exchange when you give a gift. Speaking from personal experience, if you receive a gift from someone and they had some stuff going on or they had secret resentment, it can come through in the gift, especially if it's a candle or food. The candle may act weird or have issues lighting, or the food might make you sick. So I wonder if the bowl was nearby when she was doing whatever magic she was doing, because it seems like it picked all that up, and then your dog Lucky sensed it.